a beautiful song, Ed Sheeran, perfect. When I listen to this song, it just stirs up all sorts of great feelings inside of me. Right?
What?
Isn't this beautiful? So this topic that we're going to talk about today is, what is self-to-self sex? Now, we don't know what happened behind closed doors during that music video or whatever the real relationship status is, but nevertheless, the mood of the song is really
I mean, I can imagine.
This connection, this deep connection that we're all longing after.
And I mean, I could imagine that song bringing up a lot of different parts for people. Because I mean, I'm sure like some people, and this is what love does for people. Like, you know, that's a romantic version of a sexual connection. And you know, for some people it's like, you know, they'll be like, oh my gosh, like, you know, that's so cheesy.
Yes.
And other people it's like, that's exactly what I want. But yeah, I mean, that is one like romantic version of a ideal relationship for the person who wrote that song, and it brings us into the topic of like, okay, what is ideal? What is real self-to-self relationship? I think is what we're getting at.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in our foundational videos on internal family systems framework of self-leadership, we'll provide the link below so that you can get into the nitty-gritty details of what we're talking about. But we'll just give you an overview, because the self-to-self is really that essence of who we are. And when we're in a good state, when we feel good about ourselves, when we're happy, we're curious and compassionate and connected and playful and present and calm and courageous and confident.
I love it.
We all have this.
Love it. Yeah.
And sometimes we're like, who is the real me? You don't even know where it is, because you're so pressured by life and thoughts about your mother and the people that did you wrong. And so we're showing up so armored, feeling like we have to show up in a certain way in order to receive love and validation and to be accepted. Sure. And we feel like we have to bottle up parts of us. And so we all have this self which can get curious towards parts of us that show up in sex. Mm-hmm. Part of me that's like, oh, I'm too fat, I'm not pretty enough for that guy, or I'm not experienced enough, or oh, my penis size is really not big enough, I don't feel good about myself. And all of those insecurities, which every single one of us has some insecurity that's buried underneath, that's going to question, especially if we meet somebody who is our, oh my God, do I really deserve this person? Am I good enough? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so say more about that.
Well, I don't know. Are there any questions that you have? Anything that comes up for you about this, or?
I think.
Not so sure what to say.
Oh, well, you know, it's interesting because I think some of us have. I know some of my friends that have played it safe with their relationship, where they're attracted to a certain point, but it's safe. They got married, they had kids, they did what they were supposed to do, and they didn't feel insecure or not good enough. Because if we're married to somebody or in a relationship with somebody that's either maybe if somebody is a 7 and they're dating a 6, it's not as threatening, right?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Whereas if they're 7 and they're like, ooh, somebody who's my match is actually interested in me, or somebody who's an 8 is interested in me. Whoa, he or she has all of these things that I imagined for a partner, and now this person is showing up, telling me how great I am. And instead of like being really owning the security of who you are, you end up with all of these insecurities that are building up the wall. You feel like you have to show up in a certain way. Your hair has to be done in a certain way. So that's the protector-led relationship as opposed to self-to-self. Yeah.
So there are a lot of things that come up in just simply the thing that you're saying. So yeah, and you're talking about someone who sees themselves as a 6 and someone who sees the other person as an 8 or a 9.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right, because
Exactly.
there's no objective, no real objective, I guess it's all subjective as far as,
Yes.
and what you rate yourself in comparison to the other person can bring out a lot of parts in you.
Yeah.
I think is
Well,
what I'm saying.
think about some of the beautiful, outwardly beautiful people, but if they don't feel beautiful on the inside because they haven't done the inner work to rescue all those younger parts of them. They could put on all the makeup they want. They could buy the most expensive clothes and shoes and just dress the part. But if there's no inner beauty, they may end up with relationships that are not fulfilling.
Yeah.
Maybe they marry just for money, and it's just so they're using each other.
Right. Wow. So how does one define an ideal healthy relationship, or what are we asking here? Or how does one define a self-to-self relationship?
How does one define self-to-self relationship, sex? How do we get there?
So how does one define it, and how do we get there?
How do we get there?
Yeah. Or primarily, how do we get there? So my own take on that would be that we have to understand what's coming up for us and be present with what's coming up for us and to speak for it. And when we speak for it, we put it out there, and that puts us in a place where we can look at what's out there, what we've put on the table, and we can still be here in relationship no matter what we put on the table. And we'll talk about what's on the table. But this is a human being to human being. This is a heart-to-heart connection that we can have, and we can discuss whatever's on the table.
And that's vulnerability.
That is vulnerability. So you have to put yourself out there, put your parts out there, and when you can't, you can at least put out that, hey, there's something on my mind. I'm afraid to talk about it.
That in and of itself breaks down the barrier.
It does.
There's something on my mind, and I'm afraid to talk about it.
Right.
Are you open to having a discussion with me?
Yeah.
So you're getting really vulnerable.
Right. And it might be there's something on my mind. I can't talk about it right now, but I do have some fears about talking about it that I'd like to discuss. I'd like to discuss the fear with you. I'm afraid, if I bring this up, you're going to get angry at me, or you're going to, I'm afraid you're going to walk away, and then at least you can get some, reassurance, some connection from the person before even bringing it up.
Yes.
But really, it is talking about what's happening in you. And you might not feel comfortable talking about every part that's happening in you, but whatever part of that you're comfortable bringing up and saying, be it, it might be, can range from anything to, there's something on my mind and I'm not sure how to talk about it, or it can be coming on out with it, which if you have that relationship, you can, like, okay, I had sex with another man or another woman, last night. You could talk about that. But really, it is what's happening inside of you that you feel comfortable speaking of right now.
Yes. I remember I had have a difficult conversation with a friend with something that had happened that wasn't kosher, and I needed to process it.
Mm-hmm.
And I prefaced it with a conversation. I've had several of these conversations, and understanding this internal family systems framework really allows me to be the initiator of these vulnerable conversations, where I've had to say, there's a part of me that's really afraid to talk about this. And just in that energy of how I expressed it, helped to drop the other person down to a level where essentially, you could also think about it like, think of me as a 5-year-old trying to share something that I don't feel good about. And what are you naturally going to do with a 5-year-old who's trying to share something vulnerable? You're going to drop down into a different. You're going to drop down into a heart level. So I would just encourage people to try it with a friend.
Hmm.
If there's something that's been bugging you, it's like, is it okay if I share something that's been bugging me? I mean, there's a part of me. If everybody, if you can just use the language of there's a part of me.
Right.
There is a part of me that's part of the internal family systems framework of self-leadership is using there's a part of me. It's not you, there's a part. So you're externalizing the part of you that's coming up.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, there's a part of me that's afraid to bring this up.
Hmm.
There's a part of me that's really angry with how I feel like I wasn't heard when I asked you to take out the garbage, and it wasn't. I felt ignored, and I feel hurt. So all this language is I. So the same thing with things in the bedroom, self-to-self connection and sex.
Yeah. So this is an unusual experience for me. You know, usually, I'm used to getting more like, you know, vocal feedback during sex, and I'm wondering, is everything okay for you? I'm used to like you know.
Oh, that's a good way to.
Yeah.
So let's role play that you're not.
Yeah.
Okay. No, we're not gonna do that. We're just gonna pretend.
Okay.
So pretend that you and I have been dating 3 or 4 times, and then we decide to make love, and I'm all bottled up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. Maybe I'm trying to fake an orgasm or something. And then you're sensing resistance or armor.
Yeah.
So how would you drop into that
Like,
place?
Hey, how's it going? Are you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm okay.
With me? Okay. Oh. Because I was wondering, it seems like you were kind of distracted.
Yeah, I guess I was distracted.
Yeah, it's okay. Is this something that you want to do right now, or is there something that you want to talk about? Or?
Yeah. Are you saying we don't have to keep going?
Of course we don't. I don't want to do it if you want to do it. I'm not into non-consensual.
Okay.
I'm into enthusiastic consent.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that up. You know, I don't know how to bring this up to you. I'm not feeling good in my body.
Hmm.
You know, I'm a little heavier than I should be. I'm like 15 pounds heavier than I should be. So you know, I feel like you might be judging me since this is so new for both of us.
Well, yeah. If it helps you, I'm seeing you as very hot right now, and there is no. Like, so that might be on your mind, but just reflecting how I see you right now.
Oh, thank you.
I see you as just a beautiful woman, and I love being with you, however you're feeling, whether you're feeling horny or whether you're feeling beautiful or whether you're not feeling beautiful. You'll always be that way to me.
Oh, that makes me feel so good.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, I'd like to connect with you right now. How would you like to connect?
Ooh. Can we just look into each other's eyes?
I love that.
All right, we could just do that.
Okay, that works for me.
And then we could just take it step by step.
Yeah. Is it okay if I give a hug?
Yeah.
Can I give a hug? Okay, cool. And then we could, right.
Yeah.
And then, you know, one could go from there, just saying, okay, this is what I would like, you know, would you like that too?
Yeah. You see how we just dropped into that? And just the tone of Percy's voice? Just so gentle.
Yeah. Did that work for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Well, because I felt the connection, I felt you were there with me. So that's yourself, your highest self. Being present. You're not judging me. You're asking. You judging and critical parts were not even in the picture.
Yeah. Well, your parts were welcome. So it's like if you're feeling a certain way, it's like it's okay. I want those parts here too. So it's not like, you know, I'm when she's mentioning that she's not feeling in the mood, or that she is feeling
Fat.
she's feeling fat, I'm not like, you know, don't worry about that, ignore that, you know. It's just,
Exactly, and
right.
you know what? And that's
Right.
how most well, usually it's the men will respond. Don't worry about it. You're fine.
Get that out of your mind.
So
Yeah.
that how would you name that part that just answered? That wasn't from self.
Right, that was
from-
not from self. That was a protector that's trying to control what's in her mind, which, you know,
And I would
It's not
just feel
possible.
dismissed. I would
Right.
feel dismissed because this part of me wanted to be expressed, wants to express its vulnerabilities and its fears, and he wouldn't have held the space. Percy would not have held the space for that vulnerability. So that is a path towards disconnection.
right,
So we really got to hear what the other person is saying.
right. So on the other hand, if the vulnerability is welcome, like if it's like, yeah, I get that you're feeling that way. Can I share with you how I'm feeling right now?
Yes, please.
So I'm not invalidating the way that she feels. I'm saying, you know, I see that you're feeling this way. I'm feeling differently. It's okay that you feel the way that you're feeling, but I'm really seeing you in this way. And, you know, that's the you that I see, you know, in my heart. When I open my eyes, this is what I see when I look at you, and this is what I feel when I'm with you. And I hope I hope that even that part that feels like she's fat can be welcome here, because I love her too.
Oh, wow.
Right.
So
Okay.
let's process what just happened.
Process that, yeah.
So this role play, I mean, if I were in that relationship with Percy,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that he accepted all parts of me, that you accept all parts of me, that would like have me fall in love with you so fast.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we get into deep intimacy. This is already an intimate conversation. That
So
we
a
just
lot of
illustrated
people,
for you,
a lot
intimacy,
of a lot of guys might wonder, and I might have a part that's wondering this too. When I do that, does that make you more turned on or less turned on?
more for me.
Yeah.
It's a way more turned on
Right.
because you hear me, you see me, you see me.
So
For all the wacky parts that are part of my psyche. I feel so loved and accepted, and that I don't need to show up with a mask.
right. So those parts of you, I think I'm hearing that the parts of you that were getting in the way
Yes.
of a connection, be it, you know, a sexual connection or whatnot, those parts that were getting in the way were able to relax
Yes.
and step to the side, and that makes the sexual connection a lot more possible.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is about owning what comes up for us, speaking for the parts, like externalizing it, not saying, oh, I feel so fat, I feel ugly. It's like saying there's a part of me. There's that language again. There's a part of me. There's a part of me that's feeling really fat. There's a she's saying, so you're also like speaking for her. She's saying, yeah, just pretend it's a puppet. And say what she's saying is Percy gonna like my shapely butt? Is Percy gonna be okay with the 15 pounds that I have on my waist? She's saying, oh, are my boobs perky enough? And yeah, that's what she's saying.
Mm-hmm.
And how would you respond if this person actually had the courage to go?
This person said, this is what a part of me is saying. I would say, I love that part. I'm so glad that you spoke up for that. And I want that part to feel totally welcome and comfortable here. You know, is there anything that I could do to help her feel more comfortable? Because let me tell you what I think about you. Is that okay if I do that?
Yeah.
Um,
I want to know what you're insecure about.
you want to know what I'm insecure? Oh yeah,
I
have a lot of insecurities, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think in that moment, if you even like ask permission, like, can I share with you some of the things that you may not see this, some of the things that I'm insecure about?
Yeah, I have a lot of insecurities too. And right, and I would say that. Yeah, I've gained weight. I'm also, have, been, conditioned to feel that I'm somehow not masculine enough and I'm not sexy. There would be a lot of things that would, so a lot of things that could come up at any given time. This is, outside the role play, but just to say that, right, I could share some of my insecurities and, could say, I have insecurities, but when I'm with you, I feel seen and I feel heard, and I want you to feel that way with me too. I want you to feel like you can share your vulnerabilities with me because I feel like I can be vulnerable with you. And I think that's what makes this relationship so freaking hot, is that I don't have to worry about anything, and I can really come out and be, my secure, confident self with you, because I can share all of my parts. And,
That's beautiful. So, in essence, what we're saying is, you see how we just had this vulnerable conversation, and we are actually having this conversation through self. Because we're naming our parts, we are externalizing all of our parts. And we're encouraging each other to share those vulnerabilities. And that's what builds the intimacy. And the more the parts step back, the more she feels like, okay, it doesn't matter if my stomach is flabby, he loves me just the way that I am. If I get on top of him and everything is bouncing around, he's saying he's going to accept all parts of me.
Yeah, may I give a different take on this?
Yes.
Yeah, so, if we're talking about a self-to-self relationship, you take like someone's, core sense of self, the person that they feel most comfortable being when they most feel themselves, and there's this other person's self that's there. And you have, normally when we talk about self-to-self, we talk about all sorts of parts getting in the way. And we can speak for those parts and separate them out so that we can get self-to-self. In particular, in a sexual interaction, there are sexual parts that you have and sexual parts that I have. So parts that might be, that might get into sexual connection. You might call it a yin part and a yang part, or a masculine part and a feminine part. In this case, in a heterosexual couple. So when I have all the parts getting in the way, there might be this part, the sexual part that wants to come out, but it might feel guarded because of all these other parts. If I can get these parts out of the way, then I just have me and that sexual part in the room. And she just has her and her sexual parts in the room. And that way, those sexual parts can have a really hot play date because there is nothing else.
I love that hot play date.
It's a hot play date because nothing else. There's nobody else getting in the way of that. It's just the sexual parts in the room. And if you, or just sexual parts that are involved, active in that connection, and there's no interference there. And that is just a real on connection. And you might notice in relationships that you've had, I'm sure you might be able to relate as well, that when there are other parts up that aren't being talked about, then that gets in the way of the sexual chemistry. There's not going to be much sexual chemistry there because there's other stuff in the way.
Yeah.
And so the other parts that are not sexual need to be spoken for and need to be able to relax so that the sexual connection can happen, and guarantee that will be really hot when there are just these sexual parts in the room and they want to rip each other apart.
Well, and in that post-coital bliss, after you've had your orgasms, and we're usually in that really sweet state of bliss, of being so connected to one another. Mm-hmm. That's also a moment that is so ripe for processing what went well, and how you loved, oh my gosh, your erotic goddess part that just came out. Whoa, that turned me on so much. I want to see more of you like that. What other parts of you are in there that I haven't met yet? and so we need
I
to
love
validate.
the way that you said that.
Yeah.
The erotic goddess part.
Yeah.
We'll probably talk about sexual parts later and what they.
Yes.
when
Yes.
they-
Well, so then I guess for a guy it would be, oh, I love the the erotic god part, or what would you call it? The Don Juan part.
You would call it like.
Casanova part.
You would call, yeah, exactly. You would call it whatever you saw that part. Like there's a part of you that is like a part of you that's like that seems like a goddess, or a part of you that seems like a schoolgirl, or a part of you that seems like very dominant that came out that I really appreciated, or a part of you that felt like a caged tiger. And you can express that in different ways, but you will see different various parts of people, various expressions of that person's sexuality that are going to come out. Sometimes it might be like a flower, and sometimes it might be like a wrathful Kali type goddess. It might be so there are a lot of different ways that sexuality can be expressed, and afterwards you can talk about that and how what turned you on, and what scared you, and what maybe even what brought up a part in you, what I was wondering, like when you opened your eyes really wide, what was going on for you in that moment, because that was really intense. And those are things that can be openly discussed, and it can make even future connections a lot hotter.
Yes. And even in the middle of lovemaking, and when these parts feel safe to come out, that as the partner is observing it, acknowledge that part. Oh my God, that sexy girl. Whoa, I love her. Keep going.
Oh, you just blushed. Who is that in there?
Exactly.
You can tease them too.
Yes, and you tease them, and whoa, that Casanova part. Whoa, keep going. I like that alpha part. I like that warrior part. That is just taking charge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Let me surrender.
You get into it even
Let me
more.
surrender.
Oh yeah, I'll make you surrender.
Charge.
Oh, I will take charge. So you can have all this play between various parts that come out.
Yes.
So good to do that, to involve all of those parts in the bedroom, and parts that are particularly wanting to be sexual in that moment, and you can only do that by speaking on behalf of the parts that might not want to be sexual in that moment.
Yes.
And to say, hey, this is what's going on for me. And when you get those parts that don't want to be sexual to relax, then game on. Like you've got a very good sexual interaction where everyone can feel comfortable and confident in who they are and who they're bringing to the table.
Yes. Well, and this all starts with just these 3 simple words. A part of me. A part of me. Just name that part. I know that last time that you wanted to try something different, this other position I didn't want to get into. There's a part of me that's afraid that we might go there again. So can we talk about this before we roll around on the sheets? And so that's dropping into your vulnerability. Now there's a part of me that's afraid of. So if those 6 words, there's a part of me that is afraid. The minute you bring up afraid, you're opening yourself up for love to come in.
Right. To some compassion.
Yes.
And you know what? That will also test the waters. Because we know that, all relationships don't work that smoothly. So just to, give an alternative example, if I say that, hey, a part of me is afraid, a part of me has a concern, and the other person says, don't be afraid, don't worry about that.
Oh, yes. You just
then I know,
dismissed.
right, then I know that, okay, we're not in a place to do this right now, right? And it's just testing the waters.
Yes, and then there's a follow-up sentence that you could say, ooh, a part of me just picked up that what I just revealed with what I'm afraid of, you're not ready to go there today.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
There you
okay.
go.
That's okay.
Mhm.
So instead of getting mad and say, "You never listen to me. Here I am getting vulnerable. What's the matter with you?" You're it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
So for example, like you can put something out there to test the water to see if we're ready to talk right now and ready to connect.
yeah. Yeah.
For example, I might say, I have a part that's afraid right now, and if Emily says, get that part out of here, you want to try that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I have a part that's really concerned. It doesn't feel ready for this right now, and I really just have a concern that I want to.
Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You have nothing to worry about.
Right. Okay. So when I hear that makes me feel like I can't be safe with you. Like I feel.
Oh, really? I didn't mean that.
Okay. Yeah. Because I'm feeling really vulnerable right now.
Oh.
And
What did I just say?
oh,
Tell me what I did wrong. I'm just used to answering people in this way.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, when I said that I felt afraid, and you said, at least I heard you say, don't worry about it, don't be afraid. And, that caused me to feel really invalidated. It caused me to feel like, oh, I'm not allowed to be afraid around you. And so that makes me even more scared that I'm not allowed to be afraid around you.
Yeah. So essentially what happened
Mhm.
there was
Mhm.
Percy didn't feel seen. You didn't feel seen. I didn't drop into curiosity.
Right?
Curiosity is one of the hallmarks of self-leadership. When you go to the foundational video that we'll include in the show notes, it's the 8 C's and the 5 P's of self-leadership. And one of the big C's is curiosity. Did Percy feel that I was curious towards him? Did Percy feel connected to me? No.
Mm-hmm. Right. I felt a little, persecuted, so
Yes.
to speak. Yeah.
Yes.
So I felt very blamed for being in the state that I was.
Yes.
And didn't have someone present with me
Yes.
that I could feel safe to open up to.
Yeah. Well, so this is what we just showed you in this video is really the foundation of how to start to have these kinds of conversations. Mm-hmm. We're not used to having these kinds of conversations. We're not used to dropping in and really hearing what the other person is saying. Mm. And one person can start this whole process of getting into self, but you have to, if this is not your usual way of speaking for your parts, naming your parts, yes, it takes a little bit of getting used to. And what I will encourage you to do is watch our foundational video on what self-leadership is. And of course, you could always go to the self-leadership website, selfleadership.org, where you'll understand the background of where the model came from. And then there's a bookstore on that website, which has plenty of books on IFS, Internal Family Systems. My book is in there too, How to Permanently Erase Negative Self-Talk So You Can Be Extraordinary. And it covers why when we don't feel good in relationships, at work, at home, in the bedroom, it's all due to lack of self-leadership. So if we want to have a fun and fulfilling love life, we got to understand what our highest self is capable of and how our highest self is capable of communicating at this level that we demonstrated for you. And when you can communicate at that level, especially starting outside of the bedroom, and then you bring it into the bedroom, that's what builds the connection and the deep intimacy, and that's what builds the fulfillment, and that's what makes us happy. It's not about money, status, and stuff. It's about the depth of the human connection.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to teach.
Yeah, we might even slow it down in terms of, step by step, how to unblend.
Yes.
In a, we can set it anywhere you want, in a cocktail party, but in the bedroom, or, before going to talk to someone that you feel attracted to and you've never met them before.
Yeah.
But we can step by step you know, just see, okay, how do we unblend and get into self so that we can come at this situation, whatever that situation happens to be, from yourself or from your core self or higher self.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll even demonstrate a role play in how we're actually how we would actually help the other person unblend. I mean, granted, we're both trained in internal family systems, but there is a flow chart that you could follow. And if your partner is willing to experiment with you on this next level of developing your highest self, it's the most wonderful journey that you can go on.
That could be very fun, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Read the books together, and from the stories in the books, it's going to help you to start the conversations, the intimacy from reading together, or watching these videos together.
Yeah, from experience, actually having a couple where you have a common language like that model is, being in a partnership like that can bring it really deep, really quick, and can cause a very deep connection. So a lot of appreciation for that, really.
Yes, and that's what we're trying to teach you on this YouTube channel, and that's our goal. And so if you like what you heard in this video, like what you learned, we would invite you to share it, subscribe to our channel, comment below so that we could answer your questions.
Like it. Yeah.
And so hopefully we've demonstrated for you what is self-to-self sex. How do you get there?
Mm-hmm.
Where you allow all the parts of you to show up in the bedroom.
Yeah. More of that to come.
More of that to come. Take care.
Take care.